Hello, and welcome back to Wine About Your Data podcast here at Transform Consulting Group. We're so glad that you joined us in again, and I have a new and special guest with me here today. So once again, Sarah, you want to give us a little bit about who you are?
Yes, thanks for having me. Well, my name is Sara Gropp. I'm the data manager for Transform Consulting Group. I am proud to be here over 8.5 years now, which feels crazy. So currently my role is data manager. I help manage a team of our data specialists, not just data analysts, but several of our consultants have great expertise in data. So I'm happy to lead that charge and support them. And then I also act as strategy on several of our projects, just providing strategic direction and insight. I love data, so
You love data, and you're also like a mom.
In my personal life, I'm married. I live in Michigan, and I have 2 young boys, 1 and 3. So I'm just in the thick of it, but thankful for this job and the role that I have to support both lifestyles.
That's awesome. Well, and as you know, I'm Danae Green, your host, and I am so excited that we get to talk about all things data today. We got a full episode here. And Sarah, it's just great that you got to join me, but I need you to talk to me a little bit about this wine that you brought us.
Yes.
So what do we have here?
Yes, like I said, I live in Michigan, and if you're familiar with Michigan, there are a ton of wineries, breweries in our area along the lake. I live north of Grand Rapids, and so I wanted to bring this winery from Stony Ridge. It's actually in Kent City, Michigan, and I think it's a little hidden gem up where we live. And if you ever visit there, it has a surprisingly beautiful view. Like I would think in the middle of the country, like this comes out of nowhere, but you can sit on the hill and drink your wine there and just see, especially in the fall, like the colors of the fall and the trees, and it's fantastic. And so this is one of their most popular wines, La Crescent, semi-dry, and I like the balance of not too sweet, not too dry. I feel like a good mix for anyone's palate.
Perfect. Well, I think we need to take a little drink here. I need to test it out.
Yeah.
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers. I love it. So what do we got here? It is. It is a nice
You
blend.
approve?
I do approve. This is fantastic. Well, there you go. And once again, if you're joining in, you don't have to have a glass of wine. You can pick up anything you want, coffee, tea, or just your everyday soda. Or is it pop? I don't know. Which one is it?
I do say pop. I don't know
You
if that's
say
a Michigan
pop?
thing.
Okay, I don't know. That's a debate for another day and another podcast. But we do have a lot going on here. Real quick, though, before we dive into our topic here on stakeholder feedback, I have a question, though. How did you get involved with TCG? I know a little bit of your backstory, but I think our viewers need to hear a little bit more.
Yeah. I'll start back in school. I think I've always loved math. I thought I loved math, but I came from a small town, so who knew consulting was a job you could get when you got older, So I love math. I thought I might want to be a teacher. I thought I might want to be an accountant, and I majored in business and education. And that led me to do a big project in school to create a business plan for a childcare center. And that then led me to a professor inviting me to a community event where our president, Amanda, was speaking at. And I felt amazed by her presentation. I had wished I had some of that knowledge back when I presented on my business plan project. And maybe Manchester would have had an on-campus childcare center, but here nor there at that point. But I was just really impressed with Amanda, and I introduced myself, and things took off from there that I got hired on as a project assistant. And day one, I learned Tableau, our data visualization software, and really grew to love that. And I think pushed my way into this data role that I could thrive in, and helped grow our team in that way to analyze data through pretty visualizations and dashboards. And I do beyond dashboards, but I just really love the dashboard part of it.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, and just think about even then, like the childcare aspect. I mean, we do so much work in that industry and that sector. And who would have thought, like, full circle, if that's how that would have landed for you?
Right.
Oh, I love that story. I guess we should dive right in, though, to our topic here today. So I think that it's really around stakeholder feedback and how that informs our work.
Right.
And I do know that TCG, like, we do a lot with collaboration. And that's a key component of our philosophy and how we go about doing our work. And I would say this is a big piece of that. Don't you think? This stakeholder
Yes.
engagement part, really trying to hear from external folks. And
Yes, I think that's so important to collaborate on projects. Often on our projects, we'll say we collaborate with our clients to not work for them, but work with them, but also to translate that for our clients to work with the people they serve and the people that they impact, to collaborate with them to get their voices and input to make sure they're providing the best services or programs or whatever it might be. And not just external in the community, but we also look internally at their staff, what's working for them or not working for them.
That's awesome. Yeah. So today we really are going to whine about stakeholder feedback and how that informs our work, how to go about getting that feedback. What are some of those methods and tools, some best practices? And really, we're just going to have a great conversation about all things data. And since you just love it so much, it's going to be fun. All right. So Sara, in the past here, we've been talking a lot about just the value of data and then data storytelling. And we've kind of got into the nitty gritty some about different kinds of data. But I think today you're going to break this down a little bit further for me. So why don't you start off with that? Kind of like tell us a little bit more about kind of what types of data there is out there.
Yeah, I think for data storytelling, it's important to have some of these factual elements and then the emotional elements. And so we have hard numbers through your quantitative analysis that you can collect through community public data or internal organizational data, like just your number, those outputs, like who you're serving, how are you serving them, how often, those like tangible things. But then emotional appealing stuff can come from open-ended context through surveys and stakeholder feedback and engaging with people and like that collaboration. And then also the importance to get buy-in from those people and make sure that the programs and services that impact your offering is going to be the most helpful and beneficial for them and what they need.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, like really going back to that client and the people we serve, and the whole point is to really get that information so we can really understand what we're doing well and what we can improve on.
Right. And so I know we wanted to talk about some specific scenarios of different project types and how you might see that collaboration and thinking about surveys. One common project we do is strategic planning. And so not only do we collaborate with the client that wanted to work with us, but we suggest to them that we have a strategic planning committee that is made up of different stakeholders that we can get feedback from and buy in. Then we also have data dashboards that I love, that we also have committees in a way that we want to collaborate with to inform what goes into the dashboard, how they're going to use it. And it, again, is going to create the most out of those scenarios. And similar to a data dashboard is a community needs assessment. So that's a really common one where if you are doing a community needs assessment, we want to like get that stakeholder feedback from the community themselves, the people that will benefit from your programs and services, to inform it.
Yeah. So really, on all my years here at TCG, I'm not quite at your number. It really is the underpinning of all of our project is that data arm. And, as just your everyday nonprofit gal and your non-data analyst, I need the Sara G's of the world to be in the background, really helping us bring out this information to really be able to tell that full story. And so, Sara, can you maybe give us some examples on how we do this? Who do we need to gather the feedback from, and how would we go about having that conversation?
Yeah. So first, when we're thinking about who we want to get feedback from, we often start most of our data projects with high-level research questions. So what do you want to know with this project? So we're not even always thinking about who at first. We just want to know, like, what questions do you have? And then we can also start backing into, okay, who can help us answer those questions the best? And then there are times too where we might start with who do you want to get feedback from? And then we'll get into kind of the high level, what should we learn from them? So there's somewhat of two approaches. I would say some go-to groups are, like I mentioned, just public community that are impacted most directly with programs or services. The internal staff of your program that is delivering programs and services, because they can inform who and how well this works. They're one-to-one with the people being impacted. And another group are philanthropic partners. So those funders, the people that are supporting the cause. What do they need to know?
Referral sources or folks that refer and connect with you is another big one that we see.
Yeah, oftentimes in the nonprofit world where other agencies are referring to a specific program or service, we want to hear from them what they're seeing the community needs are. Yeah, that's a great Another great one.
Sometimes we work with a lot of like kid programming or youth, and if there's families involved, those
Yes,
are another big one.
Yeah, parents and families, especially when it's going to be more challenging to get feedback from people under 18, from our youth directly, or depending what they are, so we can engage with parents and families to find out how beneficial they've found the program or service.
Yeah, that's awesome. So maybe break down some of your favorite tools and methods out of all the projects you've done.
I think most people, when they hear stakeholder feedback and getting feedback, we go to surveys. Like, we love a good survey, right? It's for me as a data analyst, it's the best way to truly like collect the feedback in a consistent way, summarize it in a consistent way. But like, survey fatigue is real. We get surveys for everything, even when we don't think about our quick like satisfaction surveys, scenarios.
Yep.
So I do think there's been times where we try to think outside the box. And so some other methods, not necessarily outside the box, but you could do a focus group where you're pulling together a group of people that you want to get feedback from and able to have some open dialogue of consistent questions, but you can dig a little deeper with them and truly understand what they need and allow them to share. And then, of course, one-on-one interviews, even more of a close feeling there to get feedback from them, an opportunity to dig a little deeper in their questions. I think you can be creative then. So a focus group doesn't necessarily have to be just a question and answer. You could have interactive elements, whether it's like a virtual, we love Slido, like an interactive questioning tool.
Yep.
You could do some type of sentiment analysis. There was a project we just did. I love that we offered a happy, sad face paddle that they could somewhat respond to the question overall of like how satisfied or happy they are with these scenarios. And then we could then prompt, okay, the people that said you're not satisfied, let's talk about that, or you are happy. And so it's fun for the participants then and helpful for us to easily track a number of within this like open-ended context. Yeah.
Oh, that is so cool.
And another fun scenario even is when you need to get feedback at a community event, there was some voting jars. So again, we're asking for feedback and they could do these plastic coins and vote for what they want. And so you can think outside the box and get feedback in ways that don't feel so cumbersome, like at the survey and analyzing that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have to go back though to the survey because you said it was like your favorite to analyze and to use. So what is it about it? Is it just the control you have over it? Of being able to ask, communicate the answers?
Yeah, I think for me, I don't know if that's like my personality type or just my data analyst type of somewhat of like, I don't know if it's dry data or what, but it's just there's a consistent set of questions, typically multiple choice where they have to pick between a choice. And then I can easily quantify that by saying 10 people said this or 50% of people said this. And it really supports it because with open-ended questions and dialogue, you have to put some thought, like additional thought of beaming them, trying to pull out, and it's more challenging to quantify. So yeah, I think there's give and take on both. But then with surveys, you don't have that interaction to ask further clarification. Why did you pick that? Or to tell me more. And I think that's a struggle that we can have.
Yeah. So it is a blend of both then, typically, that really makes a great recipe.
Right.
For the end, for that data storytelling piece.
Right.
Okay. What are some of like the best practices and experience you've had based on the research side of this?
I was thinking about surveys first, and we have developed a stakeholder planning template where we can think beyond the question. So like, what do we want to know high level? What questions are going to help us figure that out? And then we look at other things like, okay, based on the audience we want to get feedback from, we set response rate goals so we feel confident in the results that we're getting. We know there's 1,000 people in this community. We want to get at least 100 responses to feel good about them being representative. And it helps our clients too understand how much they can help us publish and promote the survey and feel confident too with what we're giving them. We also think about what ways we can communicate and get feedback that's accessible. So oftentimes we want to just email out a survey. That feels easy, but really that's not accessible for everybody, especially in the communities that we're often serving. So are we posting a flyer and different locations where they can access it, like through their employer? Or are we asking maybe employers themselves to hold a focus group with employees for us so we can get some of that engagement? One of our clients, we do want parent and family feedback. So we worked with them to identify a big event that they have every year where they can take tablets and literally do the survey with parents and families in the moment. And that's been like our most successful event, to do it all in that day and take advantage of people being together. So
kind of aligning your tools with like operational functions to get those results.
Natural times people are already coming together that we can steal a few minutes and it not feel so overwhelming. And I do worry in this world of survey fatigue that another email, they're just like, I'll do that later, push it aside, and they're not doing it. So when we can be creative and thoughtful about how we're engaging with them and getting feedback, it helps.
Yeah, I think the other thing I've learned, there's also like times a year too, just natural, like July isn't always our best month for things, right? And so like it is just really kind of thinking about your organization, natural scenarios where people are coming together, and also, are you in school? Are you out of school, or whatever those natural times are? So I think just kind of being aware of all of those little nuances really goes well into the planning process to get the stakeholder feedback, because you really do want a good chunk of folks that actually respond, so you can really say this is data that was really meaningful when we move forward. So I love that. Well, Sara, as we start to wrap up a little bit about this episode, I guess for anyone listening or watching, what would you say their first step was if they were starting to really get into this stakeholder feedback?
Yeah. My first thought is being curious about who or how have you engaged with the people you impact. So, is stakeholder feedback in any fashion something you've done before? And what value could you have in that? So somewhat just challenge you to think about how you engage them, no matter what type, whether it's the survey, focus group, interview, or even just talking through interactions. Like, how are you getting that feedback? And if not, think about who you could and what you want to know from them.
Yeah.
And go from there.
I love that. Yeah. I think if you're going to start somewhere, start with the folks that you impact the most, right?
Yeah.
And then work your way out. You don't have to do it all at once if you're getting started. And so really break that down. And once again, we always say data is for learning and for growth. And the goal here is to get that information and to be able to make those informed decisions, and then use your data to tell your story, to get funding, to communicate. All the things.
Yeah, and I was going to add to that. I hope I don't put pressure to just do it for the sake of doing it, but I do want people to be thoughtful, because I have also seen like paper surveys, for example, being collected, and then after the event, they just get put aside and not really referenced. So even beyond just collecting the feedback, think about what's feasible and realistic for you and your team to look at and understand. Like, maybe it is just a single type of interaction voting scenario of what do you need, what do you not need, versus a big comprehensive survey that's going to sit somewhere. So too, I want to throw that out there, to be realistic.
Be realistic and really for action. It sounds like, and like to know what all you can actually accomplish in the time that you have and the capacity of your staff.
Right.
Because all the data collected and even analyzed, but then not be able to move forward with staff isn't really that helpful, is it? The goal really is to use your data to make those decisions. I think that's great. So I hope all of you that are listening or watching, that as we close out this episode around stakeholder feedback and really learning to collaborate with the folks that engage with your organization, that you guys really take this to heart and start that collaboration process, and you really look towards engaging people at a different level. So I love that. Anything else you got for the good of the cause? Or
and I hope that you start to see the benefits engaging them. And I mentioned it briefly, but didn't touch a lot, but I think it's going to also create a lot of buy-in and appreciation for your programs and services and what you're doing. If your stakeholders feel like you care about them and their opinions, I think it's going to just create buy-in and support for your program in the reverse.
Yes, that is awesome. I think that is it for us today on this podcast. Please leave a review for us on whatever platform you are joining us, preferably 5 stars. No, I'm just kidding. You can leave whatever stars you want. We'll accept all the feedback you give us. That's feedback, right?
Yes, feedback is feedback for you to essentially put a survey through stars. So
there we go. So give us your feedback and we'll take it to heart and we'll use it in our next episode. In the meantime, cheers to you and cheers to Sara and I. And we hope that you have one less thing to whine about.
Cheers.
Cheers.